Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. I actually want you to take a deep breath, just kind of get comfortable, because we're going to create a safe space today to gently untangle a really, really disorienting communication pattern. We're looking at something that can completely scramble your sense of what's real and what isn't in your relationships. And, well, we're going to break it down together with absolute clarity. Because this isn't just about simple disagreements, right? It's about that sinking, hollow feeling in your stomach when a conversation goes entirely off the rails, leaving you exhausted, confused, and honestly questioning your own basic grip on reality.
So why do I end up apologizing when they were the ones who hurt me? Have you ever walked away from a conversation asking yourself that exact question? It's deeply relatable, and frankly, it is a dizzying, maddening feeling. You go into a situation knowing perfectly well that you were the one who was wronged. You might have even rehearsed exactly what you were going to say in the shower. But somehow, by the end of the whole shebang, the script is totally flipped. You find yourself feeling guilty, desperately doubting your own memory, and actually saying I'm sorry to the person who caused the harm in the first place. It feels completely backwards, literally like you stepped into an alternate dimension where up is down.
All right, let's move into section 1, defining the distortion.
Now, to stop feeling so off balance, we really have to understand the mechanics of what's actually happening in those moments. We need to clearly define this distortion so you can spot it the absolute second it begins. Because, guys, this isn't just a simple lie. It's not someone just saying, "Oh, I didn't do that." No, it is so much more calculated and defensive than that. It's an active inversion of moral responsibility. The person is completely refusing to acknowledge their harmful behavior, and here's the kicker, they don't stop at mere denial. They actively reconstruct reality. They position themselves as the victim, and they turn you into the perpetrator. It's a profound distortion designed specifically to evade accountability, all while extracting sympathy and comfort from you, the person they literally just hurt.
Think of it like this. Imagine holding up a mirror to someone just to show them the impact of their actions. You just want them to see the hurt they caused. But instead of looking at their own reflection and taking responsibility, they twist the mirror. They warp it to make themselves look like an angelic, misunderstood victim, and they reflect you back as the unreasonable aggressor. The truth just bounces right off this distorted mirror and is entirely inverted. So your completely valid pain, suddenly rewritten as their injury. That healthy boundary you bravely tried to set, in their script it becomes their oppression. Your truth transforms into their persecution. They essentially take your reality and wear it like a costume to protect their own fragile ego.
Okay, moving on to section 2, the reality split. Let's see how this plays out in everyday scenarios.
Because, recognizing the definition is one thing, but seeing it play out in real time, that's how you truly protect yourself. Take a super common trigger. A partner raises their voice and yells during an argument. That's the objective reality of the harm caused. The yelling definitely happened. But notice how the script gets rewritten. They'll say, "You're always so sensitive. You made me yell because you wouldn't listen." Wow. Do you see how the emotional weight is completely shifted there? The focus is immediately taken off their aggressive action of yelling and placed entirely onto your reaction. The trap here is that you naturally want to defend your character. So instead of holding them accountable for yelling, you start defending your sensitivity. Your lived experience of being yelled at is completely overwritten, and suddenly you're the one on trial. Or let's consider another scenario that happens all too often. A family member breaks a promise. That is a fact. A commitment was made and it was broken. But instead of a simple, mature apology, the rewritten script sounds something like, "After all I've done for you, you're punishing me by bringing this up?" This brilliantly demonstrates this script flip in action, basically weaponizing gratitude against you. They completely bypass the broken promise, and suddenly you're framed as the ungrateful punisher. It creates this dense emotional fog where your legitimate grievance is buried under a mountain of unrelated past favors. So while they play the wounded party, you are left questioning your own memory and feeling immense guilt just for advocating for yourself. Crazy, right?
Which brings us to section 3, your protection toolkit. Let's talk about how to respond with grace. So the absolutely crucial point here is, how do we actually handle this? How do we respond to this distortion with grace while fiercely protecting our own sanity? Well, we need a system. So here is your 3-step toolkit. Step 1. Trust your documented reality. This is vital, and frankly, it's the hardest step. Why? Because our empathy makes us doubt ourselves. We inherently want to see their side. But in these situations, our memories can be so easily eroded by someone constantly repeating a false narrative with total, unyielding conviction. So if you need to, write things down. Keep a private record of what actually happened so you can anchor yourself in the facts. Step 2 is to name the inversion calmly, and Step 3 is to hold the boundary firmly. Let's look exactly at how you put Steps 2 and 3 into action verbally.
All right, so here's how you execute Step 2. You simply say, I notice you're describing the situation in a way that doesn't match what actually happened. Now, notice what you are not doing here. You're not aggressively attacking, you aren't yelling, you're lying, and more importantly, you're not engaging in or defending against their false narrative. You're just simply and calmly naming the inversion. It's a clinical, emotionally detached observation. You're observing the distortion without letting it pull you into an exhausting, endless debate about who the real victim is. You state your observation, and then you stop talking. Just let it sit.
And here is Step 3. This is how you firmly hold the boundary. You say, I won't participate in a conversation where my experience is denied. We can talk when we're both willing to acknowledge what occurred. This is incredibly powerful because you have to remember one fundamental truth here. This isn't about winning a debate. You aren't trying to convince them to confess, and you really have to let go of that deep desire to make them say you're right. Honestly, you might just have to grieve the apology you're never going to get from them. Your true superpower is resolutely refusing to let your truth be erased. You walk away with your reality completely intact, and you shut down that distorted mirror entirely.
I want to pause right here for a second because this is the absolute most important takeaway of this entire explainer. Your perception of reality is valid. You do not have to accept a reality where your pain is twisted to serve someone else's comfort. You are seen, you are valued, and your thoughts truly matter. Relationships should be safe harbors, not courtrooms where you constantly have to prove your sanity or defend your right to feel hurt. You deserve relationships where the truth is honored, not inverted just to evade accountability. Please keep this truth anchored deeply in your mind the next time you feel a conversation starting to spin. But, this brings us to a slightly darker question. What happens when someone stops merely reversing the roles and instead looks you right in the eye and directly attacks your grip on reality itself? How do you stay grounded when someone says that never happened, or you're imagining things, with such intense, unblinking conviction that you actually start doubting your own mind? That systematic, intentional undermining is the ultimate escalation of this behavior. It's the gaslighting fallacy. And that is exactly what we're going to dive into in our next explainer. Until then, hold on to your truth, trust your own mind, and I really can't wait to explore that next topic with you.